want anything else.
We don't want to know.
We're dedicated, yes.
To our favorite shows.
Oh, my circuits!
Everybody loves Hypnotoad.
Scary dog!
Flirzin at Blursball.
Futurama.
Good evening. You are listening to a Radulich and Broadcasting premiere podcast TV party tonight. I'm your host, the mandated reporter, and frankly, I'm mortified, Mr. Mark Radulich. And tonight, our favorite show, such as it is High Fidelity, brought to you by the good people at West End Kushirker Midnight Radio, ABC Signature Studios, the Walt Disney Company, and Hulu, and Zoe Kravitz. Oh, Zoe Kravitz. Joining me tonight is actually kind of a two-part series we're doing. As you know, for those who've been fans of the Radulich and Broadcasting Network, we like to do themes. We like to do some synergy. So when my co-host tonight said, hey, listen, I know you like to pick the schedule and pick all the movies we do for On Trial for the next millennia, but what if I pitched one at you? And I was like, all right, we'll try it. And he said, High Fidelity, the John Cusack classic that isn't say anything, needs a good douchebag hipster skewering. And I said, okay, but did you know they did a Hulu series adaptation of the novel that the movie was based on? And he said, Brack? And I said, yes, they did a High Fidelity series. And I said, so I'll do your movie if you'll do my TV show. And he said, Brack. And I said, all right. So, ladies and gentlemen, he will now sell all 3 EPs of the Beta Band. Ladies and gentlemen, Sean Comer.
Not exactly the way that conversation went down, but I'm going to let you have that one. The way I seem to remember it, I was I was skeptical and concerned when I first saw the trailer for this, and then that kind of gave birth to the notion of how, kind of like Fight Club, this is one of those movies that's exhausting to watch because of just how many people over the years have misunderstood the notion that the main characters are not to be emulated. They are not held up as positive examples. They should not be your role models.
Can I ask you a question?
What?
Did you ever actually read the Nick Hornby book?
You know, I never did. I never got around to it. And that will not be held against me because I know that rule number 1 of the Radulich and Broadcasting Network, such as it has been now folded into W2Mnet, is books is for burning.
That is correct, sir.
Mm-hmm.
But apparently it resonated with a lot of people that this keeps coming back up.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Noted. Are we bringing this up in the same general context as the noxious twihards who love to fire back at anybody who dutifully shits on those movies with, well, if you've read the book?
No, you brought up Fight Club, and I was reflecting back to that podcast about how people who, if they read the book or they watched the movie, got utterly the wrong message from both. And it may, as you said, it made reflecting back on either or both difficult.
Okay, for those who may not have read either, let me present something that's much more latter day. A lot of people who post memes of the Joker and Harley Quinn with a little caption that says #relationship goals. Yeah, they belong in the same category of people who idolize Rob Gordon and Tyler Durden. They missed the point entirely. The point was lobbed over the plate for them to bat out of the park with their understanding, and instead they somehow managed to smack themselves in the nuts with the bat. That's how badly they missed. And meanwhile, the ball is actually sailing into the stands and concussing a 5-year-old. That is how badly the point was missed. And to all the people who would point out, well, you're not supposed to be like, I don't think you're supposed to like it. Then what enjoyment am I supposed to get out of this if someone is not supposed to like? It just makes it exhausting. It just makes it exasperating to sit through. That doesn't make it better. It's no fun watching a movie in which you basically cannot bring yourself, for the most part, to root for the ones who are gobbling the majority of the screen time or the majority of the attention of the book or whatever. I just and I hate to say it, I will right up front admit that at one point I was one of the people who kind of got the wrong idea, and I became an absolute media snob, much like the characters in both this series and the movie, and I presume the book. The thing is, I eventually outgrew that. I know people who never have.
Well, isn't that kind of the point of High Fidelity? I saw somebody, I don't remember if it was like an actual paid critic or it was an audience critic on Rotten Tomatoes, and I thought I think it was a paid critic, who made the point of saying, in fact I know it was now, something along the lines of this being a story about Arrested Development and the ability to kind of grow up. And if we can sort of laser focus on the series, and we'll get to the movie tomorrow, that's what we're looking at here with our main character, who is Zoe Kravitz, playing Robin/Rob Brooks, the gender-swapped lead character of this. She's the owner of Championship Vinyl, and she's in this sort of emotionally stunted place, and through hardship and heartbreak over the course of 10 episodes, and this is the saving grace of both the character and I think the show, she does evolve. She does learn things. There's the argument that she starts out a shit character, and by the end, she's still kind of a garbage human, but I do feel like she makes progress. You're not at the end of this thing going, you are the worst person ever, and I root for you to fail. At least I didn't. I thought when you get to the final episode, and we'll talk about these things individually, but when you get to the final episode and you see her coming to certain realizations and parting ways with, the love that she lost, and sort of recognizing that this isn't going to happen for her, and trying to make and trying to make the best of it with Jake Lacey. I did get the sense that she had grown a touch. Not a lot. And I think that, and I don't want to compare this too much to the movie because I want to save that for tomorrow, but I'll say this. There's this giant leap that Rob makes in the movie. And he does a whole speech on it, and it's one I really like, and I posted it on my Facebook page. Talk about it later, tomorrow. But this sort of, coming to this conclusion, and then the whole third act kind of revolves around that, and, he has sprouted wings and he has flown. Whereas this is a little bit more reserved. She grows a little bit, but not a tremendous amount, because I think ABC Studios and Hulu and all the people involved in this are kind of hoping to get a couple of seasons out of this. So you can't end her journey the way you end Rob's in the movie.
God, if they try to get another season out of this, I really hope to fuck they actually have some other ideas, because one of the biggest problems with this season, and one of the things that struggled so much right from the very beginning to keep me engaged, is the fact that, to draw a comparison to a show that's actually based on novels and movies that actually took the source material and truly tried to adapt it, truly tried to do something unique with it. Hannibal takes the original trilogy of Hannibal Lecter stories and twists them, retells them, goes into certain depths of character that the books didn't, and ends up giving you something that's a surprisingly unique experience. And I could say the same thing about a lot of other adaptations too. You could say the same thing about, say, NBC's Parenthood. You could sort of say the same thing about Friday Night Lights to a certain extent. One of the biggest problems with High Fidelity is it reminded me more of the 2010 Nightmare on Elm Street remake. Because, for the most part, it just takes almost all of the memorable scenes and beats and quotable bits from the movie, and then, like I said, it dresses it up in an updated setting, and there's a token attempt at kind of spreading out the representation a little bit that doesn't really add anything. So it kind of feels almost cynical at times.
I don't know if I agree with that.
And then it just kind of takes those beats and it pads them out.
Let me go ahead. Sorry.
And it just apes them for the sake of this kind of hipster fan wankery.
See,
that's I spent most of the show just kind of rolling my eyes at it, because it makes it just so kind of dull and predictable. It's like, ha 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 ha! I see what you did. You took the scene with Bruce Springsteen, and instead now it's Debbie Harry. Ha ha ha! Because it's updated, and ha ha ha! And you know, women instead of men. Ha 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 ha! Ha ha ha! That's what they were going for. Whereas instead, it was more like Jackie Earle Haley growling, "How's this for a wet dream?" to Rooney Mara.
I'm going to politely disagree with some of that. Two things. One, I think the intention with this series was to take something that, by and large, resonated with a large swath of people. You know, a lot of us like music. A lot of us, you, I think, would be included in this, are among the people where you say, you know, music saved your life, in the sense that, you know, music is an important part of your life, of your personality. I remember I have a friend named Chuck, who's the guy I shared a lot of music with, went to a lot of shows or whatever, and we both said to each other one day, it's like, I can't imagine a day where I don't discover a new piece of music, a new song, a new artist, something like that. You know, it's a little bit different now, because back then, you know, the search for music was a hunt. You went to the Tower Records, or, you know, the shops like the one in this show or the one in the movie, and you sought out things, and you talked to people, and it was a community. It was its own little social sphere. Mm-hmm. Now you can fucking do it with Spotify. A little Google search. Algorithms tell you what you should listen to. But my point being, I think there's a recognition that the story, from the standpoint of view of the music, and from the standpoint of view of heartbreak and Arrested Development and emotional evolution resonate with a lot of people, if not everybody, on some level. And it's been odd years since the movie, and God only knows how long since the book was originally written. And I think, as my father-in-law says, it's not an original idea left in Hollywood, so everything that is old is new. And they thought, okay, well, new generation, who probably haven't read the book and haven't seen the movie, might want to, see this, and it'll resonate with them, and we'll keep going with this. That's certainly that's everywhere. That's pervasive throughout the culture. As for the gender swapping and the race swapping and the inclusion of the LGBTQ communities, there's nothing wrong with saying it didn't resonate with you or it comes off as cynical to you. That's your perception, and that's valid. But I think for a lot of people, they might have seen themselves in this the way I saw myself in the movie. The way you, at the time, might have seen yourself in the movie. And, see, to me, it doesn't come off as cynical. I really think that there is, by and large, a movement now in Hollywood to be inclusive and to be earnest and sincere about it. And for the audience, there's an audience out there that longs to see themselves on the screen. And when you're talking about gentrified Brooklyn and and a group of various races and sexualities and genders trying to find their way in the world and figuring out their 20s and figuring out love and just not knowing what to do, but also enjoying that life of going to shows every night, which I did at one point in my life. Mm-hmm. I think there's an audience that, despite all of the race and the sexuality and all that, see themselves in that too. So I thought the show, it's not great.
I will retract that criticism slightly. You make a great point, and I admit, I may be wrong about that. I guess it just feels that way because we're getting this, just like I said, it's not even an original story. It doesn't feel like something unique. Most of it just feels, like I said, like it's just aping the favorite bits from the movie.
See, that's, I think, a valid criticism, because I watched the movie right after I finished this, and I was like, wow, some of this is fucking word for word.
Oh, like I said earlier, it is just about word for word. And then, like I said, and then you have the bits where it's clear that somebody thought, gosh, we're sure being fucking clever by subbing Debbie Harry for Bruce Springsteen. And, oh, come fucking on. You see it from a mile away. And then there are times where they'll take something that was just not often do they do this, but sometimes they'll take something that was just a fun little bit from the movie or from the book, and they'll try to pad it out into so much more, and it just absolutely, as it often does, grinds things to a halt. Yes, I'm looking right at the fucking episode about the jilted wife who's selling the record collection. Fuck me sideways.
Oh, I see. I love that episode.
It took what was an amusing nod to an urban legend, and they admittedly it was an amusing little update. It was cute the way she's now a kind of eccentric kooky artist, and how Rob's really conflicted about it, much as he was in the movie. But then you have the bit where oh, let's go to the hotel and let's find out if he's really such a bad guy. And
Are you kidding? That was the best part.
And lo and behold, they find out that, yeah, he's... It's like, what was the point of that?
Oh, God, because I know so many guys like that. So many guys who are, like, dismissive of women and their opinions, and are talking directly at other guys.
No, that's the thing. I get that part. But the fact is, she told you this. You were convinced she was wrong. You went all the way to the hotel, wasted this woman's time, and oh, lo and behold, yes, he is the emperor of all patchouli stinking douchebags.
Because I think it's, again, you get so much negativity with Rob and the various relationships. I mean, what she goes through with Mac, I believe that's his name.
Yes,
Mac. What she goes through with Mac and what she ultimately does to Mac is, at the risk of irritating you, and I apologize if what I say next does, but like my friend Chuck used to say, bitches be whores. What she does to this guy would make you hate this character.
Oh, sorry, muchacho. This guy had it coming.
Why do you say that? He did nothing to her. He committed the sin of proposing. She then immediately cheats on him, then goes back and sleeps with him, and then when she tells the story of the breakup...
Okay, wait. Never mind. I'm sorry, we were thinking of two completely different things. I was thinking we were still talking about the aging hippie fucking a woman who could have been old enough to be young enough to be his granddaughter. I thought we were still talking about that.
No, what I'm saying is, if you look at Rob through the prism of her relationships, with the exception of Simon, she's kind of a shitty person. And
yeah, both Robs have the absolutely uncanny, preternatural gift for making every fucking goddamn thing about them.
So what you need in the show, and I think the show does moderately successfully, is gives you other bits where to show you that Rob has actually got a decent side to her. She has made terrible mistakes with Mac, and not so great mistakes with some other people in her life. But Mac's the main one that, like, everything was her fault. And so
I was just rooting for Clyde to just yeet himself into a better show.
Yeah, we'll get to him in a second.
The entire fucking time.
So
from the time he's introduced.
So, long story short, too late. If you just look at the her and Mac stuff, and her and Clyde, she's shitty, and you don't root for her. You root for her to get hit by a car. So they needed stuff in the show to show that she has a conscience, and she's actually a decent person. She's just made mistakes with these men because of whatever else is going on in her psyche that makes her afraid to commit to halfway decent men. And it's funny because I was actually talking to a coworker about something similar to this today, about how, trauma in early life makes you create those same situations as you get older that are toxic for you, but because they are familiar, and so you keep doing it because as human beings, we seek out the familiar. Mm-hmm. And we haven't really delved into that with her yet. You don't really know much about Rob. It starts like it's like a throwaway sentence or two about how she ended up managing the store, but you don't really get a sense of who she was growing up or why she's the way that she is. Why is she... Not every 20-year-old tries to be Peter Pan and stay 20 forever.
You know what? I applaud. They're showing the restraint to not give us some kind of smirking John Cusack cameo.
So the point being, the record store episode, I think, is one of those where, here's something about Rob that's good, that makes you buy into this character. And personally, I thought Parker Posey was really fun in that episode as Noreen Parker, who's the artist selling the record collection. She plays flighty and weird, and it's fine. And the guy playing her husband, her ex-husband, in the hotel was such a douchebag, but he's so familiar to me. Like, I know so many guys like that throughout my life, or I've known so many guys like that throughout my life, that I was watching this and I was like, I was having a ball watching that episode.
He made me think of one very particular guy.
Okay.
Not shutting up the hair, the pretension, the glasses. Somebody who's been wreaking misery on me for years. He was just like the first one that I thought of. So, I mean, they kind of accidentally depicted him exactly how they needed to in order for me to detest him. And
this show really struck a nerve with you.
Oh, God. You know what? I don't resent its existence or anything. You know, if you like the movie, there's a very good chance you're going to like the show, which is fine. I am one of those people for whom I adored and swore by the movie when I was in a certain portion of my 20s. Once I outgrew that portion, you know, the entire story and the characters went from being my spirit animals to, again, the word that keeps coming to mind, exhausting.
Let me talk for a little bit about plot, because we've, like, hinted at things and we're just sort of all over the place, but to give this some structure, I'm just going to give a rough plot synopsis and then we can kind of just delve into whatever for the remaining time that we have. So, basically, if you haven't read the book and you haven't seen the movie, this is a story about a breakup. We begin with Mac leaving Rob. He's moving to London. He's breaking off the relationship, and she is trying to figure out, and he is the love of her life, and she is trying to figure out what the hell went wrong. So she starts going through her previous 4 breakups, and she kind of goes through, you know, one by one, and she describes them, and there's a lot dedicated to that. And along the way, she starts to realize how they got to the point where Mac just said, fuck it, and left. Couple of things. You also see her day-to-day life. She runs this record store. And there's a subplot, I don't even call it a plot, but there's a part of this show that is just dedicated to the love of music. There's a lot of conversations about, like, if you're a music nerd the way I am, the way Sean is. Sean used to write a column about music. I have been doing a podcast about music for years now. If you are a music nerd and know a lot of details and pay attention to this sort of thing, and it isn't just the background soundtrack to your commute to work, there's a lot to take in with this movie. Because even if you don't know who they're talking about at times, you can at least appreciate the depth and the level of the conversation. It's very Kevin Smithy in the dialogue, very Quentin Tarantino-ish, where the discussions don't really lead to much of anything, but they're there to give the characters flavor and to kind of pay tribute to the wonderfulness that is music at large. So that's a lot of the show.
They do, but it often kind of comes at the cost of really seemingly just kind of endorsing the sort of just noxious gatekeeping.
Again, it's very Kevin Smith, like very Quentin Tarantino-ish.
Yeah, but it's on a level that there's no way Kevin Smith would endorse when it comes to, especially that one goddamn, like, what you like is more important than what you are like.
I gotta tell you, that's like the one thing I completely disagreed with.
Fucking hell. Folks, I hardly endorse beating the utter living piss out of anybody who ever says that. And again, it's a line of thinking that the rise of the internet in particular has kind of desensitized people to, in terms of just how toxic and shitty it really is.
Let me ask you a question about that. Do you think the writers of the script writers and the producers intended that line to be ironic in the sense of this idiot of a character says this, but it's not really true? Or did you think that was said in earnest?
My God, it's hard to tell.
Yeah, because I don't.
I genuinely have no idea.
Well, my one vote in favor of it was said to show you what an idiot this character is the realization that her and Clyde. Now, I'm going to take a brief moment here. Clyde is played by Jake Lacey, who looks like fucking Shaggy from the Scooby-Doo movies. What the fuck is his name?
Matthew Lillard.
Yeah, I thought that was Matthew Lillard, and he had been hitting the gym. But apparently that's Jake Lacey, and he's been in a whole bunch of other stuff. In any case, they introduce him early. He goes on a date with her. They end up sleeping together. But they don't have a tremendous amount in common, and she's, like, not ready to commit to him. He's a lot of things that she's not into. But he's super stable and nice, and he's all the things that if you're trying to build a life with somebody would be good qualities. And
she is a condescending,
twat,
fucking two-faced, passive-aggressive, judgmental, ungrateful bitch.
Twat.
To this man. Yes, twat. Twat is a good way to put it. It is a great word for her. And this is the way she treats him the entire fucking time.
Sean, you and I have talked for a long time. We've been friends for a lot of years now. Believe it or not. Come on. We've both been Jake, right? Clyde, rather. We've both been Clyde. We've both been, like, friend-zoned. We've both been the safe boyfriend, paired up with some lunatic girl who doesn't see the value in us and goes running towards the chaos. And we're like, but for why? Come on, man. If no other reason to adore this show is to see Clyde's story.
It is the reason why in the finale I was just sitting there just going, no! All is lost.
Well, let me quick do 50 words on that. So, through the course of the show, as she ping-pongs around, she friends Clyde, and Clyde becomes, as they call it, like a fake boyfriend. And Clyde finally says to her, I don't want to be a fake boyfriend. Either we're in a relationship or we're not, but I'm not going to have chaos in my life. And, no truer, no greater words have ever been spoken by any man, not since the Declaration of Independence was read aloud. So
the man becomes her living emotional meat shield when she conveniently doesn't tell him, help, my fiance my ex-fiance is here with his fiance. I feel the bad about it. Please kind of help me feel less bad. Just gives him just no honesty whatsoever.
Yeah, she's horrible.
No emotional preparedness for what he's walking into, and appropriately, he feels utterly fucking used.
So after she finally has closure with Mac, which we'll double back to in a few minutes, she realizes she has this growth. She's turned 30. She realizes that running away from stable, decent men is probably not a good way to live. So she tries to reconnect with him, despite the differences of surface-level nonsense like books and movies and music, which you heard it here first from the Radulich Broadcasting Network. Those things are nice if you have them in common. They should not be the basis of your relationship.
No, they should not be. Folks, I will throw mine out there as a perfect example. Carrie absolutely adores anime and all kinds of Japanese culture. Has a real thing for 90s pop. I like these things. I don't love them on the level that she does. When it comes to video games, loves the Final Fantasy series. Loves role playing games. Again, I like a lot of them. Don't love them. Myself on the other hand, I love professional wrestling. I love non-geeky shows. I love a good classic sitcom or a 1 hour drama. Games wise, I'm all over the map, but I especially play a lot of competitive games. But, we find common ground where we can, we make it work, we make sure we each have our space, and we don't judge each other as human beings based on what we scroll over to first when we log into fucking Hulu.
So, the original point was that when she tries to make up with him, when she tries to have a relationship, and for him, he's a little too burnt, a little too sensitive right now to take it all seriously, and they of course do the 9% line that they do in the movie. Going back to the original line about it's not what is it, who you like, but what
it's what you like is more important than what you are like.
Yeah.
Something like that.
I got the sense that because she comes to the realization that he's a good dude and he's a good dude for her, that line was to show you she's an idiot right now. She will get better. That's where I'm coming down on this. That she makes the gradual evolution to seeing the decency in him from starting from a place of, I only want to date the people who know who swamp people are. Which, by the way, my favorite line from the movie is, I will now sell all 3 EPs of the Beta Band. That whole scene, I think, is hilarious.
Oh, yeah, they worked that in here.
Yeah, only they changed the Beta Band to swamp people. It's that same level of, hey, this is good. Yeah, I know. Because I am the all-knowing, all-seeing paragon of music.
Yeah, again, it's another bullshit, half-assed update. That just...
I don't even know how you make the leap from the Beta Band to swamp people, but whatever.
Again, there is no leap. There is no leap because it's just an update. It's just something that they think that modern day hipsters are possibly, maybe going to be more familiar with.
Sure. And who the fuck remembers the Beta Band? All right. Before the show runs out of time, we need to talk about her and Mac, because I just did a few minutes ago, this sort of passionate yelling about how horrible she is to him. So, it starts with him leaving her. He comes back about 3 months later, but he's engaged to another woman. And over the course of the show, you find out that what set the whole... Like, they were, again, the loves of each other's lives. They were meant to be together. This was kismet. And then he was going to propose to her. She finds the ring. And he's going to propose to her. And she's like, nope. And runs out the fucking door. Proceeds to get drunk and cheat on him. Doesn't tell him she cheated. But then comes back and agrees to marry him because she realizes she's a fucking idiot. And then... you learn over the course of the next several episodes leading up to the final resolution that she had spent the next period of time preceding the breakup pushing him away. And he reveals that he thought the entire time he had done something wrong and he didn't know what it was, and that's why he noped out. But the reason she was pushing him away was because she secretly cheated on him and she fucking hated herself for it. And she didn't know what to do with it, because being honest about it wasn't a choice for some odd reason. So you have the classic Three's Company issue, where if people would actually have just talked to each other, Woody would never have gone. This would have never have happened. If Woody had gone to the police, this would have never have happened. And then towards the end of the series, is where this all kind of comes out, and they're able to resolve it. They have, like, one last kiss, and then Mac's like, nope to you. I found a decent girl who isn't a fucking crazy person. I'm going to go be with her, as they say in the show, on the other side of the rock. And I think that's when she realizes she has to let Mac go, and she has to grow the fuck up. And she wants to grow up with Clyde, and Clyde's like, nope. I can't deal with you. You're nuts. And that's where we leave the show. So let's back away from that for a little while. Let's talk about your favorite character. Let's skip Charisse for the time being, because Charisse she's the Jack Black of the show, and she has a nice little arc, and where she has this hidden talent that she's making a big deal of, but it's a lot of bluster and blowhardery. And she has a nice moment at the end of the show where she's gifted a guitar and she's strumming and singing, and she's not completely full of shit. She doesn't have quite the let's get it on moment that Jack Black has, but again, season 2. Your take on Charisse is, your mileage may vary. She's not that interesting of a character to talk about. However, you thought they should have dedicated an entire show to Simon, who is number 3 on Rob's heartbreak list, and he's number 3 because they were dating and they loved everything and they had all the same interests, and oh, wait a minute, he's gay. Whoops. So, Sean, I'm going to let you kind of take over here, take the steering wheel, talk about Simon and why you loved him.
He's the one who at least doesn't feel like a hipster cliche. He's the one who, and maybe a lot of this is chalked up to the performance in this one versus the character that he's supposed to be analogous to from the movie and the book. But he's the one where you kind of relate to him most as a human being and end up just kind of quietly rooting for him throughout the one episode that's focused entirely on his story.
You want to talk about his story for a minute, like sum it up.
Basically what it is you see what would happen if Simon's what would happen if either Rob for that matter, had an actual legitimate sense of self-awareness and an ability to be accountable for their own actions. It is him recounting his top 5 all-time desert island breakups, which is just him getting sucked in by the same guy 5 times. And instead of needing to have a maybe you're the problem moment, you instead get to see this man who's been a side character for most of the show actually acknowledge and own up to his mistakes and kind of lambast himself for why he just keeps falling into the same thing despite knowing that it's bad for him. He actually has the capacity to acknowledge a toxic catastrophe waiting to happen for what it is, but he's also willing to acknowledge he's not perfect either, because he's the one who keeps getting inexplicably taken in by it. He feels the most human in all of his interactions with Benjamin fucking Young. Who, we kind of don't realize we've been seeing off and on or at least once anyway, as just kind of a random side character throughout the show. It's just such a nice breath of fresh air, because the entire time you're sitting here watching Rob suffer from Taylor Swift syndrome. And instead, we get 30 blissful minutes of somebody who may have made a lot of mistakes, but you still find it in you to root for them because they're at least aware of them. They may make the same mistake a number of times over and over and over again, but there's at least that vulnerable moment where finally they're the one who fucks it up for the last time, at least amidst the saga of the Desert Island top 5 Benjamin Young breakups. and what was it? What was he called? Chronically Insecure?
Something like that, yeah.
It's just nice to have someone who's able to cop to that. And yeah, that is one thing that I did like about the ending of the show versus the ending of the movie. I will give it credit where it's due. It at least didn't end the same way wherein, you know, Robin Brooks got a second chance, that got the kind of second chance that Rob Gordon got but never deserved. He didn't deserve to be let off the hook for everything that he said and did. He in no way, shape, or form earned it. I mean, even right down to what the hell was the pithy ass thing that he says, something like, "I don't get sick of you."
Yes, I love that line. That's the line I posted on Facebook. I get sick of everything, but somehow I don't get sick of you. Listen, man, call it what you will. That's fucking love right there. That's poetry.
That's the stuff Nicholas Sparks novels are made of, right there.
Goddamn right. You know, I know you're being like facetious. I'm dead serious, man. I heard that and I was like, you know what? That's love. Because if you've been with somebody long enough and you're, you know, at 10, 20 years in and you're like, you're the only person on earth I don't get sick of, you know that's your true love. That's some real shit.
But yeah, Simon may be one of my, quite easily my favorite character on the damn show. Charisse, again, if it weren't for the fact that, you know, she's doing a bad Jack Black impression for so much of the series, you know, I'd probably enjoy her a whole lot more.
Mm-hmm. I don't know how else to play that character, though. I mean, because if you never saw the movie and you just saw her, you'd think she's just a very loud, obnoxious, passionate music fan.
Yeah.
And so if you have, I mean, the dynamic of the story is you have Rob, who is the central figure, and then you have the mousy guy, and you have the loud, obnoxious guy, and they kind of revolve around him. That's the dynamic that's being played with. In the movie, you know, you have the I can't remember what his name is, but the bald guy who is just that. You know, when you're introduced to him, he's like talking about Belle and Sebastian, which is a band, people. It's a fucking band. You know, and they're listening to quiet music because Rob's just been through a breakup, and the other guy seems like if a strong wind picked up, he'd fly away. And then in walks Jack Black, and Jack Black's loud and obnoxious, and he's playing, I can't remember if it's what he starts off with. I think she starts off with the Pointer Sisters. But either
are you talking about the Monday morning mix?
Yes.
In the movie, it's Katrina and the Waves.
Okay.
On the show, it's we need another quirky 80s song, so it's Come On Eileen.
Yes! So that was hilarious. Because, boy, have I been to a lot of bars with a lot of white women. So, the point being, if you're developing the show and you're like, you got to keep the same dynamic, but you're doing it with what would be the most representative of that area of Brooklyn, I don't know how else. I don't know who or what or how else you do that other than the way they did it.
Yeah. Fair.
All right. So we're just about at the end of our rope here with this show. We talked about, Clyde so much as there was to talk about. Talked about Mac. We talked a lot about Rob. I'm going to ask you a question, Sean. It's kind of a personal question, but it goes to something. This goes to something in the show and in the movie, and it's one of the few things where I completely agree with you that it made sense in the movie, and it probably made sense in the book, but in 2020, they were just trying to copy it, and it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense.
Okay.
So, have you ever made a mixtape for a girl, for anybody? Did you make mixes as a kid?
Oh yeah, a number of times.
Okay.
I have myself and someone else had have kind of an ongoing Spotify playlist devoted to where we would post songs back and forth to each other. I still listen to it all the time.
When mixes were on cassette tapes and then later on writable CDs, where time was of the essence, and you only had X amount of space, and so you really had to maximize that space. And there was, as the website told us, an art to making a mixtape or a mix CD.
Yeah.
That was one thing. In 2020, when your playlist can be infinitely long, it doesn't, you can put a playlist together on Spotify and it can go on forever. Mm-hmm. I don't think they do this, I think in episode 2, where she starts making this mix, and she delivers the same dialogue that John Cusack delivers and all of that, but instead it's when making a playlist. And I'm like, it's not the same. Doesn't resonate.
I mean, you can do it. You just have to show an iota or two of restraint.
I don't know. Maybe this is my old man coming out of me and be like, but back in my day, you had to work with 180-minute cassette tapes, and that's all you got. God damn it. If it didn't...
No, and I get you. I get where you're coming from. But, I mean, no, you can absolutely still do that. It's just that, you just have to kind of have some discipline and just kind of limit yourself to... I usually find about 10 to 12 songs is pretty good.
The last person I made a mix for was one of the loves of my life. You know who that was?
Melissa?
Nope, my daughter.
Aww.
It's Lily's Feminist Rock playlist.
Oh, that has got to be awesome. Who was on it?
Well, it's 7 hours long is my point.
Oh, Jesus, dude. Jesus.
So you know what you can do with that restraint? You can ball it up, you can shine it up, and you can stick it straight up your candy ass. She got all the things on this list.
And the thing is, 7 hours, that's when you start getting to the point of Andy Kaufman reading A Tale of Two Cities.
So just to answer your question, just a couple of right off the top of this thing. I'll read you the first 10. Calling Occupants of Interplanetary Craft by Babes in Toyland. Pretend We're Dead by L7. Malibu by Hole. Zombie by the Cranberries. Joy by Concrete Blonde. Because the Night Unplugged by 10,000 Maniacs. Cannonball by the Breeders. Only Happy When It Rains by Garbage. Seether by Veruca Salt. Just a Girl by No Doubt. And Connection by Elastica.
I do absolutely love that you threw Concrete Blonde on there. Definitely one of my favorite bands that never gets enough love from anybody.
Oh yeah, Jeanette Napolitano is a goddess when she sings.
Oh yes. For the sake of just my personal taste, just because she's a longtime favorite of mine, I would have maybe thrown some Juliana Hatfield on there.
She's on there again. 7 hours.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So yeah, Juliana Hatfield. Some of her stuff with the Blake Babies.
Okay. Yeah, there's like Lita. This goes all over the place. There's like Lita Ford on here. There's Janis Joplin. There's like more modern stuff. There's like Mazzy Star. That wouldn't be an example of modern though. What the fuck? Bring Me Evanescence. That's on here. Avril Lavigne. That's on here.
Slater Kinney. The Yeah.
Yeah, all that stuff. Like the range is quite large. But that goes to my point. The art of the mix was the art of finding just the right amount of songs to tell a story in a confined space. And I feel like when you start going into the art of the playlist, all right, you don't know the struggle of having just a little bit of tape left and trying to figure out what minute and 90-second song you were going to fit in that bit because you didn't want to leave any space. It's for all of your criticism about lifting things from the book to the movie to the show that don't quite translate to each medium, this is the one thing that stuck out to me and was like, it's a little pitchy dog.
I still found it charming.
Okay.
I liked it.
You're allowed. All right, I'm going to give you the last word here. I think we could talk about the other heartbreak story here, but who cares? You watch the show, there's a fun episode that lifts the Catherine Zeta-Jones scene and sort of reimagines it another way with the model character played by Ivana Sakno.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll let you kind of have the final word, and then we'll talk about where do you think the show goes if it gets renewed.
Oh, look, believe it or not, contrary to everything else, I don't hate the show. There's nothing about the show that makes me feel strongly enough to hate it. If you liked the movie, if you liked the book, you're almost guaranteed to find something about this that bakes your ziti. And go for it. You know what? I don't resent this show's existence. It's just, I'm someone that past a certain age found the movie and the whole saga, not much of a saga really, but the whole tale exhausting more than being charming or relatable. But that's just me. There are people for whom the appeal just endures, just immortally, and more power to them. There are certainly going to be some bitchy little gatekeepers who are going to be just angry as fuck. Not like, maybe a little iffy like I kind of was until Mark changed my mind, but just flat out, hey, I'm capable of being persuaded. But just flat out just pissed as fuck that it's not middle-aged and mopey John Cusack, but instead it's, young black and queer Zoe Kravitz. They're going to be angry that instead of Jack Black, it's a big black woman. That the skinny shy friend is now an openly gay man. So on, so forth, yada yada. And to those people, again, I'd have understand if you would have maybe rolled your eyes a little bit, but if you're going to be flat out angry about it, look, fuck off. Mark kind of brought me back down to earth a little bit, and I respect him for that, for pointing out that there's nothing wrong with just having these characters there in just an ordinary story. Like I said, the only thing I kind of resented about that is the fact that nothing about it really felt like they kind of were able to make it their own and kind of add their own spin with those characters to it at times, but just because they were there just to ape the best bits from the original. And that's the part that got old fast, like almost right from the beginning. When it actually bothers to bring something original to the table, it has its moments. Not gonna lie, credit where it's due, it has its moments. The episode The Allied, while predictable, I thought was one of the better ones of the entire season.
Yeah. There's a couple of really good episodes here.
Yeah.
The Ballad of the Lonesome Loser, which is the whole thing that focuses on Simon. The episode with at the Allied, like you're talking about. I mean, there's a couple of really good ones here.
Yeah. Just the thing that you've got to be aware of going into this. If you're coming into this with no prior experience with the source material, there are few likable main characters throughout this entire thing. And it's going to focus almost entirely on the most punchable ones.
Yeah, if you hate Zoe Kravitz in this, or you just hate Zoe Kravitz in general, this is not the show for you.
It is, and it's not even like we're talking about something like, oh, just to throw, just for some damn reason, the first example that came to my mind, don't hold this against me, we're not even talking about something like the Mindy Project, where you're kind of rooting for this plucky little thing to get her shit together. For the most part, it's more like How I Met Your Mother.
Yeah.
That's what you're going to have to deal with. If you think that's going to speak to you, by all means, go right ahead. Good luck. Have fun.
So
But me, just it's too much of everything that I outgrew and regretted about my mid to late 20s up until about the age of 28, 29.
So we had a High Fidelity adaptation. We had a Fight Club adaptation. You know what I'm waiting for next? Someone to pitch a series on Netflix or Amazon or whatever for Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance.
You know, I've never read it.
And neither have I, but I know that was a thing in the 90s. And, like, I just remember there was a handful of books written all around the same time or published all around the same time that, like, they were like the catcher in the rye of their time, where like every ne'er-do-well sneering child fucking read these things, and they've all been like adapted in some way, shape, or form, but never that one.
Kind of the Kurt Vonnegut's.
Yeah. And that's what I'm waiting for next. Is someone to keep mining the angry '90s for more stuff to put in gentrified Brooklyn. All right, we'll leave it there. I think Sean summed it up really well. You know, like I said, it was. This is not in my wheelhouse. It was dubbed a romantic comedy web television. I can count on my hand how many romantic comedies I've watched in recent years, but I do love music, and I did enjoy High Fidelity, the movie, when it came out. So I was curious about this. I don't know if Sean had told me to go fuck myself, I'm not talking about this show. I don't know if I would have watched it either. I might have just out of sheer curiosity, but it was definitely something that I think needed to be talked about, not so much watched. But I'm glad we talked about it. I had a fun conversation tonight, and if you enjoyed us, that's great. We're gonna talk about the movie tomorrow. Sean's gonna prosecute it. I'm gonna defend it. It'll be an easy defense for me because I love the movie, still do. Believe it or not.
Yeah, it's one of the rare times I've specifically requested to prosecute something.
Yep. So we'll have fun with that. And when Mark starts coughing, we know we got to bring the show to an end. So, Sean, quick, do your plugs.
Hey guys, ordinarily, if for one reason or another, God help you, you masochistic bastards, you just can't get enough of me. Most nights you can find me over on my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/ComerCodex. It is on a momentary hiatus while I'm making some tech upgrades to my stream, including the fact that I've got to fix a microphone arm tomorrow. So, hey, there's a trip to Ace Hardware in my future. I play a little bit of everything, some single-player games, lots of competitive games, especially if you like Apex Legends, Overwatch, Rainbow Six Siege, and lately Classic Street Fighter. So there's that to look forward to. For for updates anytime I am going to be going live and just my general nonsensical ramblings. Please feel free to go and follow me follow me on Twitter at Comer Codex. It's a whole branding thing I got going on. It's nice. It's nice. But yes, you can catch me tomorrow evening as soon as Mark publishes it. New episode of On Trial, in which I'm going to end up quite possibly repeating myself a whole lot, talking about the movie from whence this TV show sprang. John Cusack, Joan Cusack, Tim Robbins, Jack Black, Zoe Kravitz, Mama Sama, Lisa Bonet. Yeah, all of them. The whole damn gang in high fidelity.
All right. Alrighty. As Sean said, he'll be on trial tomorrow for we're looking at High Fidelity, and then the next on trial will be in June, specifically June 25th. We will be doing an on trial for the 1984 Supergirl. So, yep, we're dedicating a whole week to Supergirl stuff. We got a comic, we got season 5 of the show, and I'm going to drag Sean out. We're going to look at the old Supergirl movie. That's supposed to be in continuity with the Christopher Reeve Superman movies, but they've since done away with that. They've locked it in the closet behind a door that says, "Beware the leopard." So,
Wait. Mark, I just realized something.
Yes, sir.
If this isn't a Radulich in broadcasting first, it's at least an extreme rarity. We just made it through an entire episode, an entire podcast together, without a wrestling reference.
Don't ruin it.
I got nothing. I don't have anything I can ruin it with. I don't have a reference I can throw out there. Just somehow nothing came up.
It's because we were too busy talking about music.
That's impressive.
You little smart ass. My kid just said that's impressive.
I heard her. All right, so like I said, Sean will be back with us June 25th for Supergirl from 1984.
I hope you like Baby Metal, kid. I hope that's a suitable alarm clock for you.
So, if you also want to hear some more of Sean, when was the last time we had you on here?
What did you say, honey?
Oh, definitely, especially for Jay and I.
Oh yeah. You say that until 9 a.m. rolls around, and you don't want to get up.
All right. So real quick, next week Alexis will be on TV Party to review the final season of She-Ra, season 5. The Damn You Hollywood gang will be getting together to talk about the new animated movie for Scoob. Pat Mullen and I just dropped the new Chapter 7. Talking about the World Boxing Association Heavyweight Elimination Tournament.
The others will be annoyed, but Jay and I will find it hilarious.
Myself and Chris Sheehan reviewed Money in the Bank, and Pat Mullen and I will review the second season of Dark Side of the Ring. All right? So for Sean Comer and his lovely family, I'm Mark Radulich. Be well, be safe, and behave.